I only took the job at Edna's 24-hour diner because it fit my class schedule. Graveyard shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 5 nights a week. Easy enough, I thought. Serve a few night owls, keep the coffee hot, and catch up on reading for my psych class. But something's wrong with this place. And it's not just the outdated wallpaper or flickering lights. It's not even the smell of burnt bacon that never quite goes away. It's the way time feels. The first night was uneventful. A couple truckers, an elderly couple who sat in silence for an hour, and a guy in a hoodie who ordered coffee and never touched it. I chalked it all up to a sleepy highway stop. But by the third night, I started noticing patterns. The same man in a black suit came in every night at exactly 3:17, i.e., he sat at the counter, hands folded, never ordered anything, just stared. And when I asked if he needed something, he'd smile without blinking and say, "I'm already served." The jukebox, an old thing tucked into the corner, started playing songs no one picked. At first, I thought it was a glitch, but it always played the same one. An old jazz tune with a warped trumpet and a woman's voice humming softly. The weird part? We don't even have that record. By the end of week 1, I wasn't sleeping right. I kept dreaming of the diner, except it was darker, silent, and I was the only one inside. In the dream, I'd look in the mirror behind the counter and see people sitting at the booths, pale, unmoving, watching me. But when I turned around, the booths were empty. Then came the night I found the note. It was tucked under the napkin dispenser, just a scrap of paper with messy, faded handwriting. "Don't look out the window after 3 a.m. I laughed at first, probably some prank from a bored customer. But that night, at 3:17 a.m., I glanced outside. There was nothing, just a parking lot lit by a weak street lamp. But then, the lights went out, all at once. Every bulb inside the diner popped. The jukebox clicked on, playing that same warped song. And outside in the dark, I saw shapes, dozens of them, standing still, facing the diner. I couldn't make out their faces, but I could feel them watching me. The man in the black suit stood and walked to the door. I shouted at him not to open it, but he didn't even pause. "They're hungry tonight," he said, his voice low and distant, "but not for food." Then he vanished. Literally vanished. 1 second he was opening the door, and the next he was gone. The lights snapped back on, the shapes outside disappeared. I was alone again. I tried to quit the next morning. Edna, the owner, just smiled and said, "You've made it a week. They've taken a liking to you." I don't know what she meant. I don't want to know. But I keep showing up. Something in me won't let me leave. Maybe it's fear. Or maybe I've already crossed a line I can't come back from. So if you ever pass Edna's diner in the middle of the night, just keep driving, and whatever you do, don't look out the window after 3 a.m. I never thought much about the overnight shifts at the diner. It was a small roadside spot on Route 66, mostly frequented by truckers and the occasional traveler. Nothing too exciting, just the usual faces. People passing through, grabbing a quick bite, and moving on. I worked the midnight shift a lot, mostly because I needed the extra hours, but it was always quiet. That was, until he came in. It was just after 2 a.m. when he walked through the door. He had a worn-out leather jacket, and his face was shadowed by a faded baseball cap. His boots clunked against the tiled floor as he made his way to the counter. I greeted him, like I always did, with a smile and the usual, "What can I get for you?" He wasn't answered right away, just stood there for a moment studying the menu in front of him, even though he must have known it by heart. He'd been here enough times before. His gaze shifted toward me. There was something off about him. His eyes, they were cold, like he hadn't slept in days. But that wasn't the strangest part. It was the way he looked at me. There was this unsettling intensity to his stare, like he was trying to memorize every detail of my face. I asked again, "You want the usual, John?" He nodded, but didn't speak. His lips barely moved as he said, "Yeah, coffee, black." I poured him a cup, but the whole time, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. As I placed the mug in front of him, I caught a glimpse of something under the table. A small, folded photograph, just barely visible beneath the edge of his jacket. But it wasn't of anyone I recognized. "Anything else?" I asked, trying to shake off the unease creeping over me. He didn't respond, just stared at the photo for a few seconds before slipping it back into his jacket pocket. Then he glanced back up at me. "Why'd you get this job?" he asked suddenly, his voice low and rasping. I didn't really know how to answer him. It was just a job, nothing more, nothing less. But the way he asked made it feel like he was fishing for something deeper. "Pays the bills," I said, shrugging. "What about you? You on a long haul?" He gave a small, humorless chuckle. "Yeah, long haul." I didn't know why, but I felt my stomach twist. There was something in his tone that felt off, like he was hiding something. His eyes never left me, not even as he took a sip of his coffee, like he was analyzing every movement I made. I tried to shake it off and go about my business, but I couldn't stop glancing over at him. Then it happened. I turned away for a moment to grab the check from the printer, and when I looked back, he was gone. Just like that. No goodbyes, no sound of the door opening, nothing. The stool where he had been sitting was empty. At first, I thought maybe I had just spaced out, but when I looked closer, I saw something on the counter. A photo, tucked neatly under the edge of his coffee cup. I picked it up, and my blood ran cold. It was a picture of me, a photo of me behind the counter, taken from the other side of the diner. I hadn't seen anyone else in the restaurant when I was working, but somehow, someone had gotten this picture. Someone had been watching me. My heart raced as I glanced around the diner. No one. The place was silent. I rushed to the back and checked the security cameras, hoping to catch something that might explain what had just happened. But the footage was odd, distorted, like it had been tampered with. I couldn't see him entering the diner. It was like he had vanished into thin air. I couldn't stop shaking. Something didn't add up, and I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in my stomach. I thought about calling the police, but I wasn't sure what to say. A trucker came in, ordered coffee, and left. Nothing about this felt normal. Not the way he looked at me, not the picture, not the strange feeling that lingered after he was gone. It wasn't until a few days later that I found out the truth. The photo wasn't just a random shot. It was part of a collection. Authorities later confirmed that the man I'd served was linked to several unsolved disappearances across several states, including women who had worked at diners along highways. But when they tried to track him down, it was like he had disappeared from the face of the earth. I couldn't help but wonder if that was just coincidence or if I was the one he was after next. The diner has never been the same since that night, and every time I serve someone, I can't help but feel like I'm being watched. It was supposed to be a quick stop, a little break on our road trip to stretch our legs, grab some food, and get back on the road. We pulled into this small, run-down diner on the side of the highway. The neon sign flickered as we walked in, but there was something about the place that felt off. Right away, the interior was dimly lit with old vinyl booths and a counter with faded stools. The air smelled stale, like grease and something I couldn't quite place. There was barely anyone there, just one couple in the far corner and a lone waitress behind the counter. She gave us a smile that was a little too wide, almost forced. We sat down at one of the booths, and I noticed the table wasn't level, wobbling slightly. No one seemed in a rush, and the silence was unsettling. My friends and I exchanged glances. We all felt it, the weirdness in the air. Still, we were hungry, so we shrugged it off. The waitress came over with a menu, her movements slow and deliberate. She asked us if we wanted coffee, and we said yes, thinking we might as well make the best of it. When the drinks came, she smiled again. It was the kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Anything else?" she asked in that same slow, almost syrupy voice. We placed our orders, and while we waited, something caught my eye. One of my friends, Jake, had gone to the restroom a few minutes ago. We hadn't heard anything from him since. I was about to check when the waitress came over again, her eyes lingering just a moment too long on our group. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice dropping slightly. It was odd. The question felt more like a warning than concern. Before I could respond, I heard the restroom door open. But it wasn't Jake. It was the waitress, who walked past me without a word. "Where's Jake?" I whispered to my other friend, Sarah. She looked up, confused. "I thought he was right behind you," she said, glancing toward the restroom. Something about that restroom started to bother me. I couldn't quite shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The more I thought about it, the more uncomfortable I became. I excused myself to go check on Jake. When I walked down the hallway toward the restroom, I noticed the kitchen door was cracked open. I peeked inside, thinking I might see Jake, or at least someone who could explain where he had gone. But that's when I saw it. A large, industrial freezer door at the back of the kitchen. It was wide open, and in the dim light, I could make out a stack of something wrapped in plastic. My heart started pounding as I walked closer. The freezer door creaked as I gently pushed it open, revealing rows of boxes stacked neatly. But something about the way they were arranged unsettled me. Then I saw the unmistakable shape of a person curled up in the corner. It was Jake. He wasn't moving. I froze for a moment, then rushed toward him, but when I grabbed his arm, I felt it cold. His skin was cold and stiff. Panic shot through me. This couldn't be happening. Was he dead? Just then, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, and the waitress was there, standing at the entrance to the kitchen, her face now expressionless. "You shouldn't be in here," she said quietly, but there was something dangerous in her voice. I backed away slowly, my heart racing. "What's going on here?" I asked, barely able to find my voice. She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped forward, blocking my path. "You should have left when you had the chance," she said, her smile now gone completely. I backed up again, my mind racing. My other friends were still waiting for me. I had to get out. I had to get help. With every ounce of strength, I sprinted toward the door, running past the waitress and back into the main diner. My friends were still sitting at the booth, oblivious to what I'd just discovered. I grabbed Sarah by the arm, yanking her to her feet. "We need to leave now." My voice was urgent. "Why? What's wrong?" she asked, looking confused, but following my lead. As we walked to the door, I glanced back. The waitress was still standing by the kitchen, her eyes fixed on us. And for the briefest moment, I saw the faintest flicker of something behind her. Something dark, something I couldn't explain. We left, without another word, running to the car. I didn't even bother looking back as I started the engine. All I could think of was Jake, still lying in that freezer, and the terrifying realization that there were other secrets hiding behind that diner's faded walls. We didn't stop until we were miles away, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had barely escaped whatever was waiting in that diner. And I don't think we'll ever know how close we came to becoming the next special delivery that diner was expecting.